She walked into her own bank, but they refused to serve her. A black woman entered a bank, expecting the usual service. Instead, she was met with arrogance, racism, and a manager who refused to help. He saw her skin, not her status. He didn't even ask her name. But when she calmly revealed she was the CEO of the entire bank, his face went pale. And before the day was over, he was out of a job. Diana Warren stands at the back of the line, her fingers drumming against the leather portfolio clutched to her chest. The marble floors of First Capital Bank gleam under recessed lighting, but something in the air feels different today. Her usual branch is closed for renovations, forcing her to visit this location in the affluent Oakwood district, where she rarely ventures, despite owning property nearby. Diana observes the interactions ahead of her, the easy smiles, handshakes, and "right away, sir" responses from the staff. When an older white man cuts the line and receives immediate attention, Diana's jaw tightens. She's seen this before, too many times to count. When she finally reaches the counter, the young teller barely makes eye contact. "Account number?" he asks flatly. "I need to speak with the branch manager about some discrepancies," Diana explains, her voice measured but firm. The transaction she needs to complete is complex, finalizing acquisition paperwork that requires manager approval. The teller's eyes flick up, taking in Diana's simple button-down and slacks. Professional but deliberately understated. She doesn't wear the designer clothes or flashy accessories that might signal her position to someone looking for external markers of success. "Manager's busy. I can help you with basic transactions." "This requires manager approval," Diana insists, sliding over her business card. The teller doesn't even glance at it. From behind a glass office, branch manager Richard Keller watches. When the teller calls him over, Keller approaches with visible reluctance, his eyes already searching past Diana to other customers. "What seems to be the problem?" His tone suggests the problem is Diana herself. "I need to finalize these documents," Diana explains, opening her portfolio. "It requires executive authorization." Keller doesn't look at the papers. "We're very busy today. Perhaps you should make an appointment or visit your regular branch." Memory flashes across Diana's mind. Her father, 30 years ago, being told to go to your own bank when trying to secure a business loan. The same dismissive tone, the same assumption. "You don't belong here." Diana feels her heart rate quicken, but her expression remains calm. She's had decades of practice. "I need this completed today. It will only take 15 minutes of your time." "Look," Keller says, lowering his voice but not enough. "We handle high-value accounts here. For basic services, there's a branch on West Side that might be more." He pauses, searching for a word that won't expose him too obviously. "Convenient for you." Around them, the bank has grown quiet. Other customers pretend not to listen while stealing glances. A young black teller at another window watches with wide eyes, recognition dawning on her face as she looks at Diana more carefully. "Mr. Keller," Diana says, her voice steady but carrying throughout the now hushed lobby, "I don't think you understand who I am." The young black teller, her nameplate reads Zoe, approaches cautiously. "Mr. Keller, that's Ms. Warren," she says quietly. Keller barely acknowledges Zoe. "I don't care who she is. She needs an appointment." Diana observes Zoe's face, the careful neutrality masking frustration. How many times has Zoe had to navigate moments like this, witnessing discriminatory treatment while trying to maintain her own position? Diana makes a decision. This isn't just about her anymore. "Mr. Keller, I'm actually here for 2 reasons today," Diana says, her voice gaining strength. "First, to handle this acquisition paperwork. Second, to observe branch operations as part of our quarterly review." Confusion crosses Keller's face. "Our quarterly?" From her portfolio, Diana extracts another document bearing the bank's logo and her signature. Diana Warren, Chief Executive Officer, First Capital Financial Group. For 3 years, Diana has led the bank's parent company. For 3 years, she's reviewed reports showing disparities in service between branches. For 3 years, she's implemented diversity training programs that managers like Keller have apparently treated as mere procedural checkboxes. Keller's face drains of color. Ms. Warren, I didn't recognize. Clearly, Diana cuts him off. Let's continue this conversation in your office. As they walk toward the glass-walled room, Diana notices an elderly black woman being told by another teller that her check would have a 5-day hold. Diana pauses, watching as the woman explains that she needs the funds today for medication. Zoe, Diana calls, could you please assist this customer with expedited check processing? Use override code 7721. Zoe straightens, nodding firmly. Yes, Ms. Warren. Inside Keller's office, Diana remains standing, declining his sudden offer of coffee, water, anything she might need. I've been CEO for 3 years, Mr. Keller. My photograph is in the annual report on our website and was included in the email announcing quarterly branch visits sent last week. Keller stumbles through excuses. He's been busy, hadn't looked at the email closely, never expected the CEO to be a black woman. Diana finishes for him. Silence hangs between them. You've been manager here for 5 years, Diana continues, opening a second file. In that time, loan approval rates for minority applicants at this branch are 37% lower than other branches. Customer satisfaction surveys from minority clients show consistent complaints about service. The demographics in this area, Keller begins. The demographics don't explain treating me differently than the white customers I observed while waiting, Diana counters. Nor does it explain why you directed me to the West Side branch, without knowing anything about where I live. Through the glass walls, Diana sees Zoe efficiently helping the elderly woman. She also notices other employees watching the office, whispering among themselves. Your record suggests this isn't an isolated incident, Diana says, turning back to Keller. It reflects a pattern. Keller's defense shifts to attack. With all due respect, Ms. Warren, you came in dressed casually, with no appointment. Had you presented yourself properly as the CEO? So, service at this bank depends on how expensively I dress, Diana asks. That's precisely the problem, Mr. Keller. Excellence in service shouldn't depend on assumptions about someone's status based on their appearance, or their race. A knock interrupts them. The regional director, Marcus Chen, enters, having been called by a panicking Keller before Diana arrived at his office. Diana, I had no idea you were visiting today, Marcus says, extending his hand. That was intentional, Diana replies. I'm conducting unannounced branch visits to observe authentic customer experiences. Marcus glances between them, sensing the tension. Is everything all right? No, Diana says simply. It's not. The three of them sit in Keller's office, the acquisition paperwork momentarily forgotten on the desk between them. Outside, customers continue their transactions, unaware of the reckoning taking place behind the glass walls. I want to be clear about something, Diana says, looking directly at Marcus. What happened today isn't just about me being disrespected as CEO. If anything, my position protects me from the worst of what our customers experience daily. Marcus shifts uncomfortably. As regional director overseeing 20 branches, including this one, he's responsible for implementing the diversity initiatives Diana has championed. Richard has an excellent record with numbers, Marcus offers cautiously. Profits over people, Diana asks. That's not our mission statement. Diana pulls up customer survey data on her tablet, highlighting complaints specific to this branch. The pattern is unmistakable. Minority customers consistently reporting longer wait times, additional verification requirements, and less helpful service. This isn't new information, Diana notes. These reports go to both of you quarterly. Keller leans forward. Ms. Warren, if I may, banking is about risk assessment. Certain communities statistically present higher risk factors. Stop, Diana says, her voice suddenly hard. That thinking is exactly why banking has systematically disadvantaged minority communities for generations. It's why my father couldn't get a business loan despite a perfect credit score. It's why redlining persisted long after it was officially banned. The office falls silent as Diana's personal connection hangs in the air. My father was a successful accountant who was denied 7 business loans before finally finding a bank that would work with him. Diana continues, her voice steadier now. That experience drove me into banking, to change the system from within. Marcus looks genuinely troubled. Diana, I had no idea. You shouldn't need my personal story to recognize the problem, Diana replies. The data has been telling us for years. Diana stands and walks to the glass wall, looking out at the branch floor. She spots Zoe efficiently handling customers, her demeanor professional despite the obvious tension. When I became CEO, I promised myself I'd build a bank that served everyone equally, Diana says. 3 years of policy changes, training programs, and diversity initiatives haven't fixed this branch, so now we need to talk about accountability. She turns back to face them. Mr. Keller, your employment with First Capital is terminated, effective immediately. Keller stands abruptly. You can't just fire me over one misunderstanding. This isn't about one interaction, Diana responds calmly. It's about a pattern your numbers have been showing for years, a pattern our diversity training hasn't corrected, a pattern that was clearly demonstrated in how you treated me today. Keller turns to Marcus for support, but the regional director remains silent, now understanding his own role in allowing this situation to persist. Marcus, Diana continues, I expect your resignation letter on my desk by tomorrow morning. Marcus pales. Diana, that's necessary, she finishes. You've received the same reports I have for 3 years and taken no meaningful action. The culture at this branch reflects leadership failures at multiple levels. As the reality of the situation sinks in, a new knock comes at the door. Zoe enters hesitantly. Excuse me, Ms. Warren, there's something I think you should see. Diana follows Zoe to the main floor, where several employees and customers have gathered. Among them is Tamara Johnson, the elderly woman Diana noticed earlier. Beside her stands her grandson, Michael, a young man in his 20s wearing hospital scrubs. Ms. Warren, Michael begins, my grandmother told me what happened while I was parking the car. She said you stepped in when they were giving her trouble about her check. Diana shakes her head slightly. I simply reminded staff of existing policies for medical emergencies. It's more than that, Michael continues. For years, my grandmother has been driving across town to a different branch because of how she's treated here. But this is the branch 2 blocks from her home. Tamara nods. Been banking here 40 years, since before the neighborhood got fancy. These past few years, they make me feel like I don't belong anymore. Diana looks around the lobby, seeing the situation with new clarity. This isn't just about numbers on quarterly reports. It's about belonging, about dignity, about community. Mrs. Johnson, I apologize for your experience, Diana says. Things are going to change here starting today. Diana turns to address the staff who have gathered, curious about the unusual events unfolding. I'm Diana Warren, CEO of First Capital Financial Group. Today was supposed to be a routine visit, but it's become something more important. She pauses, making eye contact with several employees. This branch will be closed for the remainder of the day. All staff will report tomorrow for an emergency meeting and training session. Murmurs spread through the group. Diana continues, Zoe, could I speak with you privately? In a quiet corner, Diana asks Zoe how long she's worked at the branch and about her experiences. 3 years, Ms. Warren, Zoe replies. And honestly, it's been challenging. I've seen what happened to you today happen to customers regularly. Why stay? Diana asks, genuinely curious. Because representation matters, Zoe answers without hesitation. When customers who look like me see someone behind the counter, it makes a difference. Even when I can't change the policies, I can change the experience. Diana nods, understanding completely. How would you feel about becoming interim branch manager? Zoe's eyes widen. Me? But I'm just a teller. I don't have the... You have exactly what this branch needs. Integrity and empathy, Diana interrupts. We'll provide training and support. The technical skills can be learned. The values you've demonstrated today cannot. Later, as Diana finally completes her original paperwork with Zoe's assistance, she reflects on the day's events. The acquisition she came to finalize will add 5 more branches to their network, 5 more communities where banking practices might be perpetuating inequality. As she prepares to leave, Michael approaches her again. Ms. Warren, my grandmother told me you're the big boss here. He hesitates. I'm finishing medical school next year, but I've got these student loans. I was wondering if you could recommend someone who might actually give me a fair hearing when I come in to refinance. Diana hands him her card. Call my office directly. But more importantly, come back to this branch in 3 months. Ask for Zoe. Things will be different by then. Outside, Diana pauses on the steps of the bank, looking back at the imposing building with its marble columns and etched glass, symbols of stability and tradition. But traditions, she knows, can perpetuate injustice as easily as they can preserve wisdom. One branch manager fired, one regional director resigned. These actions alone won't transform the banking industry. The problems are systemic, woven into policies and practices developed over generations. Diana knows this better than most, but as she watches Zoe through the window, already stepping into her new leadership role with confidence, Diana feels something she hasn't felt in a long time: hope for genuine change. The question isn't whether institutions like banking can be transformed overnight. They can't. The real question is, how many people in positions of power are willing to recognize systemic racism when they see it, and use their authority to demand better. Today, Diana used her position to create consequences for discrimination that usually goes unchallenged. But what about tomorrow? And what about those without her power? Diana gets into her car, already planning her next steps: a comprehensive audit of all branches, revised training protocols, new accountability measures. The work continues, one interaction, one policy, one branch at a time. The fight against systemic racism isn't won in a single dramatic confrontation. It's won through persistent, deliberate action day after day after day. Diana starts her car, ready for tomorrow's battles, ready to keep pushing against a system designed to resist change, ready to use her power not just to succeed within the system, but to transform it. Because sometimes, true leadership means dismantling the very ladders you climbed to reach the top.